I absolutely agree with you. We have conducted several projects helping other companies to enter Nigerian markets before. And though this is a huge economy, there's so many players already, there's still so many underserved niches that you can address. And this can be a very interesting approach to entering the Nigerian market on the whole. And you can start from one niche and then expand to others if you can fit the competition that is going to happen, obviously. And I would like to make a small announcement that we have really great journalists with us today. And I think we're going to discuss one more topic with our guest today about regulators, because we have covered it before. And then we're going to ask our colleagues to ask their questions on what we have already discussed. So before we go into that, I would like to discuss the regulators and regulations, because just recently there was some news just last week that there are going to be tough new regulations from Nigerian central bank. And obviously these regulations aim to introduce tighter controls to combat persistent fraud, which unfortunately still happens. And this obviously indicates a regulatory landscape that is becoming increasingly stringent and tough for fintech companies, also making them harder to compete with traditional banks, and we discussed today. So I would like to discuss these regulations, first of all, with Dara. And Dara, could you please share your thoughts on these changes in regulations that's going to be implemented this year? Thank you.
All right, great. So I think first of all, it is very important to note that one can't categorically state what regulations the CBN or regulators will decide to come up with. Sometimes it's sporadic. However, when it regards to fraud, I 100% or to a very large extent agree with some of the regulations. And I'll give examples, right? Permit me to dive into open banking because I worked in the open banking space for a while. And we have something in Nigeria, we have something called the BVN. The BVN is your bank verification number. It's a unique number that is peculiar to every citizen. It's as important as your social security number or whatever identity number ties to your country. So in the past, we'd have open banking players in Nigeria that could access a customer's BVN without their consent, right? Now that's a dangerous thing, especially if they had a bad actor within the company. Now that might not be fraud from the outside, but within the company, it exposes the citizens that have these BVNs. So CBN rolled out a new regulation, I think that was last year. And one of the things they did was to promote, the regulation was to promote the data privacy and protect the data of citizens in such a way that for you to access that BVN, right, you would need the customers, the owners of the BVN would need to authorize via an OTP. Now, it was a very simple thing, but that was very important to protect the data of citizens, right? There have also been more tighter regulations around KYC to curb fraud, because fraud is one of the biggest challenges that fintechs face next to regulations. Fraud is, a lot of fintechs have lost money, good money, a lot of money to fraud. So the CBN or other regulators coming up with regulations to curb fraud is something that should be encouraged. Although on the back end, it might look like it's a bit more strenuous. For instance, when they released some tighter regulations around KYC, right, it made the onboarding process slightly slower compared to what some fast rising fintech had achieved. They had achieved a faster, seamless, more seamless process that required lesser details. Now CBN is saying, oh, we want this for you to onboard a customer, we want these details, we want these details. It sort of slows down the onboarding process. The customer who is onboarding on your platform may lose interest at that point. However, it is protecting the company and it's even protecting the customers themselves to ensure that their money is safe. So a lot of the regulations that are coming up around fraud are to be encouraged, to be very honest, because fraud is a major problem, right, within the ecosystem when it comes to fintechs. And I believe that these regulations will in fact help in curbing fraud and bad actor activities.